Can you give me 5 minutes? In 5 minutes, I can make you an expert on endocrine disruptors. All right, let's jump right in. First up, we're going to talk about your body's own messaging system. Then we'll get into the real juicy stuff, these chemical imposters. We'll find out where they're hiding, and I've got a crazy story from the wild for you. And then the most important part, what you can actually do about it. Okay, so let's get into it. Everyone knows about the nervous system, right? It's kind of the star of the show. But your body has another boss, a second command center called the endocrine system. And believe me, it runs things in a totally different way. So think of your nervous system like sending a text. It's lightning fast, an electrical zap that goes straight to one specific place. The endocrine system? That's more like blasting a company-wide memo out into the bloodstream. It uses these chemical messengers, we call them hormones, and they travel everywhere. It's a much slower, steadier process, but the effects are huge and they can last for a long, long time. So how do these hormones actually work? It's pretty cool, actually. It all comes down to a lock and key. A hormone is like a very specific key floating around in your blood. And your cells, they have these special little locks on them called receptors. That hormone key will just keep floating along until it finds the perfect lock to fit into. And once that key clicks into place, boom, the cell gets its orders. We're talking about crucial commands like growing taller, handling stress, or even just telling your body to burn that pizza you ate for lunch. Okay, so you've got this perfect lock and key system, right? Now, what if some chemical saboteur came along and started making a ton of fake keys? Keys that could get into your locks and just totally mess things up? Well, that's exactly what endocrine disruptors are. They're these outside chemicals that come in and totally hijack that beautifully balanced system. And these chemical imposters have a couple of sneaky ways they pull this off. First, some of them are master impersonators. They're shaped so much like your real hormones that they can fit into the cell's lock. But instead of giving the right command, they gave the wrong one. It's like a fake key that tells the door to set off an alarm. The other way they do it, they act like a broken key. They just get in the lock and jam it up. They don't give any instructions, they just sit there, completely blocking your real hormone keys from getting in and doing their job. So no matter which way they do it, the result is chaos. Your body's super important communication network that's all scrambled up. Okay, so if these things are so nasty, where are they even coming from? And this is the part that might freak you out a little. They are hiding in plain sight, in stuff you and I use literally every single day. I'm talking about stuff like BPA, which you'll find in certain plastic bottles and even the linings of canned food, or phthalates. That's the stuff they use to make plastics soft and flexible. It's in tons of cosmetics, air fresheners, even in toys. You know that non-stick pan in your kitchen? That coating could have PFOAs. And get this, even chemicals that were banned decades ago, like the pesticide DDT, are so persistent that they're still hanging around in our environment. So why should you care about all this scrambled messaging? Well, because a long-term exposure to these chemicals is linked to some really serious health issues. And here's the really tough part. The ones who are most at risk are the most vulnerable among us. Developing babies, infants, and kids. Their bodies are still building all these critical systems, which makes them super sensitive to any kind of hormonal meddling. But you know, if you want a really powerful, in-your-face example of what these chemicals can do, we don't even have to look at humans. We just have to look at wildlife. And what's happening out there is like a huge warning sign for all of us. So let's talk about a very specific chemical, atrazine. It's a super common weed killer used on farms all over the country. And of course, a lot of it runs off those fields and ends up right in our water supply. In fact, it's in the tap water for millions of people. Okay, now listen to this. Scientists took some male frogs and exposed them to atrazine at levels that are legally allowed in our drinking water, by the way. And what happened was absolutely wild. Their bodies went into hormonal chaos. They stopped producing testosterone and started producing estrogen. Some of them were, well, they were chemically castrated, and some even grew fully functional female organs. It's a shocking example of how these chemicals can literally rewrite an animal's basic biology. Okay, I know that frog story is a lot. It's pretty intense stuff. But I don't want you to feel hopeless, because you're not. The good news is there are absolutely things we can do, small changes we can make in our own lives to lower our exposure and protect ourselves. So let's run through a few simple, totally doable things. First, maybe rethink your cookware. Swap out that old nonstick pan for something like cast iron or stainless steel. Second, get a good water filter for your tap. That can go a long way in cutting down on things like atrazine. Third, and this one's kind of weird, dust your house often. A lot of these chemicals actually bind to dust particles, so using a vacuum with a HEPA filter can really help. And last but not least, just become a label reader. Start checking the ingredients in your cosmetics, your lotions, your cleaning products. The fewer and simpler the ingredients, the better. Look, the bottom line is this. Yeah, these chemicals are pretty much everywhere, but that doesn't mean we just have to accept it. Every small, smart choice you make really does add up and can lower your risk. It all just starts with being aware. So I just want to leave you with one thought. What's one small change you could maybe make starting today? Thanks for giving me 5. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment.